Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and had a wonderful Memorial Day holiday weekend. The weather here was pretty nice, surprisingly. We were scheduled to have rain all weekend, but we actually had some pretty nice weather. So, very grateful for that. Let us know that you are here by posting in the comments. And let us know this is our third part of our three-part webinar series on when your income drops. So let us know if you have attended any of our other sessions, either live or if you've watched our recording. We want to know that. We want to know who's watching, and we've gotten a little bit of feedback, and I appreciate that feedback from those of you who have watched and found it useful. We're always looking for ways to improve our programs, and we want to make sure we're bringing you quality programming that is relevant and helpful for you. So thank you for those who have provided feedback, and make sure you continue providing us feedback for any of our programming that you attend. And let us know that you're here today. Today we are discussing food budgeting and meal planning, which is a very important topic. We have discussed in our two previous weeks basics, very basics of budgeting and creating that spending savings plan. My colleague Joe Gilreath provided a very nice overview of that very first step that we need to take in taking control of our finances by looking at our stress and our stress management. And we've discussed our spending savings plan, also known as a budget. So let me know how that's going for you. If you've tried it out, how your tracking of expenses is going, any questions that you have as you're going through that process, please feel free to put those in the comments, or I've also provided my email address, and you're welcome to reach out to me at any time for extra support, or if you have questions about something, or even just to hear how well you're doing. We love to hear success stories of our participants in our programs. So our second week, we talked about navigating financial resources and looking at, now that you know what kind of expenses you have, looking at how we can cut some of those expenses, looking at ways that we can, different resources that are available that you might be able to access, and maybe how to get access to those. So we'd love to hear how you're doing with that as well. So today, like I said, we are talking about meal planning and budgeting for our food. This program was developed by a team of educators around the state for Purdue Extension. So I want to make sure we give them the shout out on all the work that they had putting all this together. So you can see our list of educators here who created this really exciting and really great program to save time and money while eating well. And please, at any point, make sure you're posting in the comments that you're here, that you're watching us, and any questions that you might have, or even success things that work for you. So let us know what works for you in your home. We all have different things. We all find those little things that really make a huge difference. So let us know what those are for you. We learn from others, and we learn from sharing from others. So let us know. All right, it is dinner time. This is a huge struggle. About 85% of Americans don't know what they're going to eat for dinner until just hours before they eat. Have you ever been in that situation where you're driving home from work, or you look at the clock and realize it's almost dinner time and you haven't thought about what you're going to eat? Or maybe your kids are saying, "Hey, Mom, we're hungry," or "Hey, Dad, we're hungry. What's for dinner?" And you realize you have no idea what you're going to have. But what and how we eat can affect not only our health, but also our well-being, our mental health, and even our finances. So today we're going to talk about some tools, remind you of some tools, hopefully things that might already be done in your household, things that you're already doing well, but maybe even sometimes having a reminder is really great in letting us continue to make those changes or go back and restart and look at creating some of those healthy habits for our families. So this is focusing on the meal planning while on a budget. So we're going to look at our My Plate, and let me know if you have ever seen the My Plate before. This is from the USDA. This actually replaced the food pyramid many, many years ago. But what we're seeing is that some people still have not seen this plate. And the My Plate really is helpful because it is shaped like a plate. And so it's easy to see the food that is on our plate and kind of gives us a better sense of how much we should be eating of these different foods. So how much of your shopping for your household of the food shopping and food prep is done by you? Are you the sole provider of the food shopping and food prep in your home? Are you working with another person in your household to share those responsibilities? That makes a big difference as well. If you're the sole provider, sometimes it's a little bit easier. But if you are working with someone else to develop a plan or to do the shopping or to do that food prep, you have to have conversations and make sure that you are on the same page with those. And you're also the nutritional gatekeeper. So you are calling the shots of what's coming into your home, what you're feeding your family, what goes into their mouths, what's being offered to them. This is a really important role. It's a never-ending chore. We know that. Those of us who are the sole providers of that, it really feels like we are constantly thinking about food. But it is very important, especially when we have children, and even if we don't, even if we're just feeding ourselves, the nutrition we're putting into our bodies is really important to take the time to think about. If you have young children, you're setting them up for their preferences for the future. You are looking at the food behaviors that you're modeling and providing in your household. And feeding our body is so very important. When we're looking at healthy foods, that can be very misleading when we're in a grocery store. Marketing is a huge component of our food buying. So it's hard to look past that, especially when we don't know what we're looking for. So looking at our health now and making sure that the healthy foods we're putting in our body really are healthy and really are what we need to be eating to help fuel our bodies and give it all the nutrition that it needs is really important. Many people perceive that eating healthy is more expensive, but it doesn't always have to be. So we're going to provide you guys today with some tools to help you find ways to make that healthy choice on a budget. So the Harvard School of Public Health, over the course of a lifetime, say that per person cost for obesity comes in at between $9,000 and $17,000 higher costs compared to those who are of normal weight adults. So managing those chronic diseases can become less expensive if we make an effort to eat those healthy foods now. It can help us in the long run. So think about these three things. Planning ahead. Planning ahead is really important. It's probably difficult to do, to truly have a plan ahead of time, but we'll give you some tools and resources to help you with that. Another tip is to look at portion control. So if you are brand new to the idea or you don't know where to start, you have no idea how much of all the food that you're eating, looking at our My Plate helps. Using a 9-inch plate really helps to see about how much food. There are tips out there. There are resources for how much food we should be eating. And this is an example of that. But you can also use measuring cups, food scales to really teach yourself what portions look like. Some people are great at eyeballing, but if you really want to make sure and you're really wanting to create that healthy habit, starting with food scales, starting with measuring cups to get a sense of what those portions and serving sizes look like. And then eat for your health. So nutrition is not an easy fix. It's not a one size fits all. It's not here's what your meal plan should be and here's what you need to eat. It's very different based on every single body. So we also want to make sure that we're enjoying the food we eat, because if we're not enjoying it, we're a lot less likely to actually eat that food. So, for example, if you're not a fan of cauliflower, don't eat cauliflower. There are lots of other foods that can provide some of those same nutritional benefits, but making sure that we're allowing ourselves to have food that we enjoy. And finding new foods, finding new ways to cook foods can really help as well. So let's look at the food budget piece. We discussed last week and the first week how to track our expenses. And really, this is why we're doing our food planning and budgeting this week, because if we don't know how much money we have, we don't know how much money we need to spend on food, or even how much we have been spending on food, it's really hard to create a food budget. So as you've been tracking your expenses, look at how much you're spending on food and groceries. So that's trips to the grocery store, it's eating out, it's the takeout, it's all money that goes toward food. And create a budget looking at how much you are spending and how much you have that is allotted for spending that. There is an online calculator to help you with that. It is through Iowa State Extension. I can provide that link for you in the comments in a little bit. But an online calculator can help you to know about how much you should be spending on food each month for your family. And it's always surprising to see how much we're actually spending versus how much maybe we should be spending on the food in our households. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says that Americans spend on average about 6% of their budget on food. But we also might spend about 5% on disposable income on dining out. So that's about 11% of your total income, which of course is going to vary. When we're looking at national trends, it's always a rough estimate. So you might be a little bit over that or a little bit under that. But always make sure that you are looking at what you can spend and what you should be spending on food each month. So having a food plan, having that budget, having a plan helps you spend your food dollars more wisely. The National Restaurant Association says that the average American eats out about 4 times a week. How does your family compare to that? Are you on par with that? Are you above that? Are you below that? Young adults who are under the age of 27 eat out even more. Eating out has become more of a lifestyle and become the norm versus the exception. Is that really the best way we should be spending our food dollars? So think about that for yourself and thinking about how we can get the most out of our money. That's really what we're here for. That's what we are looking at in these sessions, is how can we make the most of the money that we have? How can we get the highest quality food for our money? And how can we get the most nutrition for our families with the money that we have available to spend? So those servings and those savings, when we're looking at convenience foods, those are foods that are available, that are prepared foods. That is foods that don't require a lot of cooking. Just looking at that piece, those can cost more than double of our non-prepared foods. So thinking about, do you always buy your fruits and vegetables already cut up? If you do, perhaps you can save money by buying the whole versions of those and doing the little bit of prep work at your own home by doing your own peeling and cutting and mixing. They are nice. Their convenience foods are convenient. That's the whole point of them. But when you're looking at cutting your expenses, that's a really easy way to look at that at first. It may not be worth it. You may not have the time. You may not have the ability to do those, but that's a really good, quick way to look at a way to cut our expenses. On average, it is about 5 times more expensive to order delivery from a restaurant than it is to cook the same food at home. If you're using a meal kit services are very popular right now. My friend and I actually were just having a discussion about that the other day. They're a little bit more affordable, but they're still almost 3 times as expensive than cooking from scratch. If you're brand new to cooking at home, that might be a nice way to start versus eating out. However, cooking from scratch is the easiest, most cost-effective way to cook. So comparisons show chicken soup is $1.48 per serving to make at home whereas it might cost $13 for a meal service. So in this case, you can save $11.82 per serving by making that at home. So if you think of a family of 4 as an average, that's a savings of $47.28 per meal. And that's just one meal. It adds up really quickly. To get the most highest quality, most nutrition for your money, you can brown bag it. I don't know how many people still actually use brown bags. That is what I grew up with, taking my brown bag with my lunch in it to school every day. And it really does save a lot. So when you're looking at this chart of the cost of eating out versus the cost of making your own food, the average lunch with a drink out is about $10.50. Whereas if you make the same food you're on your own, it'll be about $3 to $4. That's a huge difference when you're looking at that day in and day out. On a weekly, that's $52.50 per week versus $15 to $20 if you pack your own. And then for the year, $2,730 per year is spent eating lunch out every day. Now, if you're making it yourself, that's about, you can have about $1,000.40 on the high end packing your own lunch. That's $1,000 over a year that you can save by making lunch yourself and taking it to work. And usually we're going to make it a little healthier when we can do it at home. Pretty significant savings there. So meal planning, there's lots of information out there. There are lots of videos and tutorials and ways to do meal planning at home. It's become more popular, but it can also be very daunting if this is a brand new concept to you. But meal planning helps us save money. It helps us to reduce our food waste at home. It helps us save time, believe it or not, when we do it, because we're not wondering what's for dinner. It helps us to relieve stress, and that's a huge piece. You're not stressing about what you have to pull together, or you don't have what you need, and so you have to go to the store, or you're going to order out because you didn't think about it and you didn't plan ahead, and then you're spending more money, and that causes a little bit more stress because you're not saving money, and it just all compounds together. So those who make weekly menus generally will go to the store about once a week. Those who don't plan might either be making extra trips or not go to the grocery store because they're eating out more often. So we are wasting less food. We're eating what we buy, and we're not letting food sit in our refrigerator or in our pantry and not using it. We're actually planning and buying what we're planning for, and that helps. It also is a nice way to add variety. When you can sit down and plan and involve your family in that planning, you can come up with really new inventive ways, find new recipes to incorporate those foods that we haven't eaten before, trying a new food, trying a new vegetable, trying different, there's a lot of different really neat recipes out there that can help you to broaden your food tastes and to also enjoy and have fun and incorporate and involve your family in that process. You're going to be making fewer trips to the stores, which then means fewer impulse buys. And it helps us also to find healthier recipes as well. So let us know if you meal plan. Let us know how often maybe you meal plan. My sister is an excellent meal planner. I'll give her a shout out again. She's really good with budgeting her money and also with planning her meals out, and she involves her family with that process, and it's really nice, and they stick to it, right? And that's the big part of it, is sticking to that plan as much as we can, knowing that life can sometimes get in the way, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So if you do meal plan with your family, let us know how it works. How does that work for you? If you don't meal plan, what's hindering you from creating that meal plan for yourself or for your family? And there's not a right or wrong way to do it. Meal plans are what works for you and what works for your family, what works for your situation. So there are lots of examples out there. We'll provide you with some resources for that, but it's really about finding what works for you. Some create meal plans for the week. Some can create a meal plan for the entire month, but you just have to do what works best for you. So things to think about, though, and things to consider. Time and energy. We have to have the time and have to have the energy to be able to put this plan together. So it does take some time to plan a meal. So maybe you need to find some time to sit down and plan it out. But if you think about the time that you're going to save by not having to run to the grocery store all the time or order out all the time, that might help as well. And it gets faster, it gets easier, it gets less cumbersome as you're going through and as you get used to it. The same with creating that spending savings plan. The more you do it, the easier it gets to think about. Same with creating that portion control. It's easier once you get used to it, but that starting can sometimes be difficult. So write down the meals that you like to eat. Again, we have to make sure we're eating food we enjoy. Even though we can try new foods and try new recipes, we want to make sure that we are eating foods that we do enjoy, because otherwise they'll sit there and won't get eaten. And then that's wasted money and wasted food. So think about everything from breakfast, think about lunch, even snacks, because snacks are part of our eating process. And we do need to think about what we're going to eat for those snacks as well. And also go back to that My Plate and look at all the nutrients and all of the things that our body needs and how we can incorporate all of those food groups into our meals as much as we possibly can. Kids, young children, teenagers, adults have different nutritional needs. So take those into consideration as well. And also, of course, look at any allergies, any sensitivities, any intolerances, whenever we're looking at those. We want to keep it simple. They don't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a gourmet meal every single meal, but we do want to look at those nutritional needs and how we can create easy, healthy meals, taking into those account. Also think about our prep skills. So if you have a family members, if you have roommates, think about how they can help in the kitchen, and you can delegate some of those tasks with that kitchen. And of course, making sure that we're planning meals based on what we have available. If we don't have an Instant Pot, then we probably don't need to be making recipes using an Instant Pot. So making sure we either have the equipment we need or are finding recipes that use the equipment that we already have. So think about those likes and dislikes of your family. And you can actually write these down as we're going through this. What do you like? What are some of the foods that you don't like? Or maybe even the preparation of things that you don't like very much. What are some of the dietary needs, if you have special dietary needs for you or your family? And make a list of the meals that most of your family enjoys. It's hard sometimes to please everyone in your family, but when we have everyone involved in that process, then everyone has a little bit of a say and has some ownership. So it's okay that they don't like every single thing that they eat. So after we've done that, then it's now, this next step is to take an inventory of what you have in your kitchen. So before you go to the store, before you really create your list, look at what you have. What's in your freezer? What's in your cabinets? What's in your refrigerator? What's in your trash can? What are those foods that you're continually throwing away because maybe you've purchased them and they never get eaten? So look at all of those things. That's money saved. If you already have those foods on hand, you don't have to go and buy those foods. So look also, we're not going to get huge into ads and buying on using sales and things like that, but it does help to look at things that are already on sale. So look at your grocery store ads and see those things that are on sale and help you save money, especially things that are in season. We are in getting into summer here in Southern Indiana, so we are starting our process of having lots of fruits and vegetables in season. So when you're buying in season, that can save you money. So look at advertised prices, prices in the store. All those pieces can go into that shopping list after you've created that meal plan. And even think about those things that you can save later. So what can you cook once and eat throughout the week? Maybe it's vegetables that you use in different dishes. Maybe it's having leftover days where you've created your meals, you've cooked your meals, you have leftovers, and then maybe once a week have a day where it's leftover day and you just clean out that refrigerator. And that really cuts down on food waste as well. Or you could potentially freeze your leftovers depending on what it is. Make sure if you do freeze that you are labeling that, you're putting it in an appropriate freezer safe bag or container. And that can also help you too if you have it when you're in a pinch, or you haven't planned, or you didn't have what you thought you had, or even if you just need some time, if you need to save some time and you're busy that night, you can pull out something that you've frozen, heat it up, and eat it that way. So there's lots of options for that. And these steps are all interchangeable, but doing that planning and taking that inventory are huge first steps. All right, let's talk a little bit about food waste. And of course, as I'm going through this, please feel free to put your comments and questions in our box. So we want to make sure that we are not wasting food. Again, like I said, look at your trash. Think about those things and look at those things that you're throwing away. The average American household throws away 14% of the food in their trash per year, according to a USDA study from 2004. So that's about $600 a year that we're literally throwing away. That's a lot of money when you're thinking about literally just throwing that away. So how can we reduce waste? Sometimes it's hard to look at how we can reduce waste with our food when we might have picky eaters or we're not really even aware of what all we're actually throwing away. So before shopping, check your pantry. Look at your refrigerator, look at your freezer, know what you have in there so you're not buying more of something that you already have, and potentially things that are going to go bad or are perishable things. So in addition to that, bulk buying generally is the way to go. It saves money. But if you're buying things in bulk and then throwing half of it away, you're not saving your money. So buying the right amounts of your food. So buying what you need. This is one reason why those meal kits are very popular, is because it sends you the right amount of food for your meal, which is very enticing. But you can also buy that at the store. Many stores you can buy just small amounts of things, or just buy what you need, or be able to use what you need and save the rest either by freezing or storing it differently. When you put your food away, when you're unloading from the grocery store, when you're putting away your leftovers, put a date on it. That's another reason people forget that when they made something, when they cooked something, or when they purchased something, and then it goes bad before they have a chance to eat it or use it again. So put a date with a Sharpie so you can look and see, oh, that's what I need to use, that's almost expired, or hey, I haven't used this in a while. That really does help quite a bit. And then we want to rotate our food when we're restocking our pantry. Pull out the things that are still sitting in your pantry and use those first. It's called first in, first out. So use up foods first before their expiration dates, and then put the others that have a later expiration date in the back. And make a plan to use those leftovers. Leftovers should not be the enemy. Or if you find that you have lots of leftovers and your family doesn't eat a lot of leftovers, maybe look at how you're cooking those foods. So if they don't particularly like a certain meal, maybe don't make a ton of that meal, and maybe cook your chicken separately and have extra chicken for another type of meal later on. Or even looking at inventive ways to create new kinds of meals, as creating into a casserole or soup or even snacks sometimes. How can you recycle some of the food you've cooked into more different inventive kinds of meals? There are lots of resources out there for how you can inventively use your leftovers. Okay, so think about, I'm going to give you guys a chance to write down or think about, maybe go back to this later. Think about your upcoming week. So this is a short week. It's already Tuesday of this week. So maybe even starting with this week, start small, or even looking at next week. But think about what you have coming up. What kinds of activities do you have? What did your family eat even like last week? What did you and your family eat last week? So this is a real life example from one of our educators. And generally they eat about the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. They did, it's when you're looking at this too, we can look at what we already have on hand, what we ate last week, all of those kinds of things. So also those things that are double duty, you can see some of those foods that are here. You see them multiple times because you can use multiple foods in different ways and save some money in that way. So think about enough meals to accommodate your family for 5 nights. So sometimes families are okay with eating the same thing more than one night, and that's great if that's the case. Or sometimes you need to come up with 5 separate kinds of meals for your family or for yourself. So this educator wrote down on a piece of paper her plan and her meals, but you can also, we have calendars available. There's lots of the USDA has a grocery game plan weekly calendar that's really nice and a really cool visual for you to write down and work with your family if you would prefer an actual calendar kind of format. So does this look like something that you could do pretty easily with either yourself or your family? Maybe this is something that you're already doing with your family, and that's fantastic. Writing it down makes a huge difference in the actual planning process. So I do highly encourage you to actually write it down. Okay, so make your list based off your meal plan. So once you have your meal plan, check your pantry, check your freezer, check your refrigerator for what you already have on hand, and then make your grocery list based on what you still need for your meal plan. So these are the basics, those staples that we need to restock, any kind of ingredients that you need to complete those recipes, things that you know that are on sale from looking at those ads, and it helps too. So grocery list, we could have our grocery shopping, we could have an entirely separate session on just how to shop at a grocery store. But a big thing that helps is to make that list according to your store layout. So knowing how your store is set up really helps because it helps you to literally stick to your list. You're not meandering and kind of wandering around. You are sticking to your list and going through as you are walking through that store. So the store I shop at most often has produce first, and then it has our meat section. Then we have our dairy, and then we have our dry goods kind of in the middle, and then our frozen stuff is on the opposite end of the store. So as I'm making my list, I like to think about it as I'm walking through that way. And it also saves you time because you're not walking back because you forgot something that was later on your list that was in a different section of the store. There are grocery shopping lists that can help you navigate through that. There's lots and lots and lots of resources out there. There's lists of common staples that you should have in your pantries and in your kitchens that then you can just check off if it's things that you need to pick up. There's lots of different resources out there. And also it helps on your grocery list if you have coupons or if you know something's on sale to make an asterisk or make a note that that is something that you need to check for the sales and check for those sale prices on. That is a huge time saver, and it also keeps you from having to rummage back through your phone or scan that ad or whatever that is that you're doing. That all of these little things save you time, can save you money, and definitely lower that stress as you're going through your grocery stores. Or even if you are doing online grocery buying, if you're doing grocery pickup, this is really helpful as well to still have your list. You still want to make a list regardless of how you are shopping whether you're shopping online for pickup, if you're shopping online for delivery, or even if you're actually physically going into the store. Those are all very helpful. And as you're going through your week, build your list as you're going through your week. If you reach for something in your cabinet and you don't have it, write it down if it's something that you need to replace. That helps you as well to keep those staples in line so that you know what you need instead of buying something. I actually just did this past week where I assumed that I was low on an item, so I purchased it. Sure enough, I wasn't actually low on it. So now I have a lot of extra of that item, but it does help as you're going through those staples to make a list as you're going through your week. There are different apps that can help you create grocery lists as well if you're not someone who likes paper and pencil. Lots of options, lots of resources out there as well. So think about your grocery list. Let me know if you actually make a grocery list, and do you stick to your grocery list when you're in the store? And we could be honest, I'm not always the greatest at sticking to my list, but it does help to stick to that list as you're going through your grocery store. So this is an example of foods that are needed for the different recipes, and then an example of a grocery list that breaks it even down by your food groups. So as you're going through and creating your meals or creating a grocery list, having this example of the different food groups can also help you to make sure you are meeting all those nutritional needs of you and your family. So if you notice that you haven't put any fruit on your list, maybe we should look at our meals and see how we can incorporate more fruit into our grocery list. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about impulse buying, because this is a huge problem that many people have in those grocery stores. This is another chart that shows yearly costs of some of these things that may only cost $1 or $2 in the store, but looking at that yearly and seeing how much we can save over the course of a year can really, really make a big difference in our grocery shopping, especially if we are shopping, even if we're not shopping on a tight budget. Looking at those things that we're just, in essence, throwing away our money on, are those impulse buys. Another way to help cut down the impulse buying is to not shop when you're hungry. If we could all raise our hands right now, if we are guilty of shopping while we're hungry, I always find that when I shop when I'm hungry, I buy more. Because, again, I'm shopping when I'm hungry. So everything looks good. I want to make it all right away. So I am much more impulsive when I'm shopping when I'm hungry. So feed yourself, have a snack. If it's not dinner time or if it's not a meal time, at least have a snack before you go into that store, and that will help. Beware, coupons, specials, sales can absolutely save you money, but they can also cause you to spend more money. So again, we could spend an entire lesson just on how to navigate grocery stores, just how to navigate those sale ads in those specials and coupons and deals, but we don't have time today for that. So a grocery store pickup, again, are really nice ways to cut down on impulse buying, but you still can impulsively buy through those as well, because they offer those recommended things that they think you might want to buy, that you might click on because, oh, well, maybe eventually I might need that. So stick to that list. If you're on a tight budget, then buying nutrient-dense foods, those are foods that are really high in our nutrients, really can help cut down on the spending for that. When we're eating really calorie or really nutrient-dense foods, it fills us up more and keeps us fuller longer, versus if we're buying things that are higher in calories, such as our candy, our sodas, our chips, they aren't going to fill us up. So we're going to eat more, and by then spending more on those things, because even though they might seem like they're cheaper, we're spending more money and eating more of it because it's not filling us up. It's not giving us the nutrients our body needs. So look for those nutrient-dense foods, especially things like snacks, to help fill us up, keep us fuller longer, and help us save money. So this is an example of what a grocery store might look like. Your grocery store might look similar to this. It might be a little bit different, But in general, most grocery stores are set up about this way. So we've got our meals plan, we've made our list, we know what we're going to get, we have a game plan. Sticking to the perimeter of the store, so walking around the store is generally where we're going to find our healthier options. Generally, not always, not every single case, but in general, the outside of the store has our healthier options. So we have our produce, our fresh produce, our deli section, our dairy, bakery, frozen fruits, those kinds of things. So certain healthy foods might be in the center aisle. So our canned foods, nuts, and grains are generally in the middle of the store. So know where those are in your store, know which aisle those healthier foods are, and avoid some of those other aisles that you do not need to go down, like the cookie aisle. I try everything I can to avoid that cookie aisle when I'm shopping because I know I might be tempted and I don't ever need cookies. So it's helpful, again, to know your store, know where everything is, and just walk right past. You don't need to go down every aisle every time you go grocery shopping, especially when you have your list. In addition, if you can, and especially in today's world, we are cutting down on how many people are going to the grocery store in our families. We aren't taking our entire families anymore if we can avoid it. So think about how that has changed your grocery shopping, whether that has been where you're shopping online or you're doing grocery pickup or you are doing grocery delivery, or perhaps it's just you going to the store instead of your family. Take a minute and think about how that's affecting your grocery shopping. Are you finding that you're doing less impulse buying? Are you shopping faster? Is it taking less time? Is it less arguments and less stress because you're not hearing little ones complaining and begging for different kinds of snack items? Are you avoiding different center aisles easier because you're not having others with you in the store? So think about those things and how that can be affecting, and if that's something you can continue in the future, because it does cut down on stress, cuts down on money when we are shopping either by ourselves or maybe with only one or two people with us. When we're looking at food safety in our store, that's important as well, especially when looking at our food waste. We want to look at those foods that are perishable and how if they need to be refrigerated or frozen, we don't want them to go bad before we even get them home. So when we're picking up those items that might be perishable or might need refrigeration or be frozen, do those toward the end of your shopping. That way they are not sitting in a cart, thawing out while you're doing the rest of your shopping. So our time is valuable. We never seem to have enough time to do the things that we need to do, and shopping for food is no different. So the Food Marketing Institute estimates that we spend $2.17 for every minute we're in that store. So think about how much time, if you are physically grocery shopping, how much time are you actually spending in the store? Or maybe it's an option that if we're doing online grocery shopping, you're spending a lot less time actually doing your shopping. So how much time are you spending clicking on what you need versus how much time you actually spent walking through a store? That can help cut down that impulse buying a lot. So some ways to shop smart. We're not going to get into huge detail with this, but these are the top 10 things that we can help shop smarter as we're going through our grocery store. If we have freezer space, then frozen vegetables are generally as nutritious as our fresh produce. It saves you prep time because a lot of times they're already prepped somewhat. They're either cut into smaller pieces or even sliced or however they're processed, and usually less expensive. You can find sales and deals, especially if that food is not in season. So these are great to help save time and are generally a good buy, especially when you can buy on sale or on special. Canned beans and canned vegetables are a great option to add nutrition. Canned goods stay fresh a lot longer, so you don't have to worry about your fresh produce going bad. Many times it is a lot easier as far as prep as well, but check those nutrition labels. Make sure that we are not adding a bunch of extra sodium. You can buy things that are low sodium or no sodium added or no salt added. And you can also make sure you're buying things that are not flavored. And that also goes for our frozen vegetables as well. Sometimes you can buy frozen, but that they are then coated in a sauce, right? We want to find things that are raw or unflavored so that we are cutting down some of those added calories to our foods. All right, so proteins. Choosing our proteins. We think of proteins generally as our meats, but meats can generally be are usually the most expensive thing on your bill. Buying family packs or value packs of that meat can help cut down costs, and you can usually save some of those for later. So if you want to freeze them, that can help as well, or cook in bulk and then save some away for other meals, especially if you can find things that are on sale. When we're choosing our meats, looking at our nutrients that our body needs, our lean meats are better. So our lean beef, our pork, and our chicken. Things like loin help us know that they're lean. Ground beefs, we want to choose the 90-10 option. That's the meat to fat ratio. So looking at how much fat is on our foods. Those fattier options are usually cheaper, but it's because when you cook it, that fat comes out. And so you actually have less meat there to eat. You can also look at non-meat options for your proteins. Looking at our canned dry beans. Beans are a great source of protein that are generally a lot cheaper than our meat option. And of course, eggs are great options for our protein. They're very versatile. We use eggs in a lot of different recipes, and there's lots of inventive ways to use eggs that give us that protein source for us. All right, let's talk about convenience costs. So we discussed this a little bit earlier, but our pre-chopped fruits and vegetables, microwavable rice packets, those things are costing you money because that prep time is being done by somebody, right? And you're paying that person to do your prep for you. So even if you're new to cooking, challenge yourself to learn how to prepare and chop certain things. There's lots of videos and lots of recipes out there that do require, that either show you how to do prep or maybe require a little to no prep. So a large bag of brown rice costs $1.77, and that's about 32 ounces of rice. Using a rice cooker, an electronic programmable pressure cooker, or even just a pot, it cooks pretty quickly. It's very easy to cook rice. But the minute rice cups that are 4.4 ounces a piece cost you $2.19 a piece. Uncle Ben's Ready Rice, those microwave pouches, are $2.19 for 8.8 ounces. So you're paying to save time in the kitchen. Sure, it saves some time, but really cooking rice does not take that much more time if you're cooking just a bag of rice versus those things that are already prepared for you. Looking at our drinks. Again, we could have an entire session on drinks, but look at how much soda, how much sugary drinks, how much lemonade, how much powdered drinks that you and your family are drinking, and how much money you can save by cutting those out, or at least cutting down on them. So first of all, water is the most nutritious thing you can drink, of course, but so it's a nutritious choice as well as a money-saving one. If you're worried about your tap water, if you don't have good water quality at your house or wherever you live, then maybe invest in a filter. You're still going to save money in the long run. Looking at our store brands. So our store brands usually are cheaper, and most of the time they're the same quality as your name brand. We'll look a little bit more deeply into that in the next few slides, if we should look at our store brand or our name brand for the better buys. So the last 5 of these details, are going to be talked about in more detail because there's more to them than that. So the next one we're going to talk about are our categorical sales. So there are about 15 categories of grocery stores items, and they usually cycle about every 12 weeks for the sales. Use your ads that you either get in the mail, or even if you can plan ahead, a lot of the weekly ads are available online. Find those sales, find the deals that are already in the stores. If you have coupons, use coupons. We're not getting into extreme couponing today, but coupons can be helpful if they're things that you're already going to buy. Don't buy something just because you have a coupon for it. Coupons are also something that, or even when we look at our weekly sales, we want to check the sales, check those things, put them on our stock up list. So things that we know we can store longer, that maybe are on sale, we can buy more of them, have them for additional weeks, can help save us money. If you have space in your kitchens, not everyone has a lot of space. So sometimes it takes space to be able to store some of these things. So those things that you know you eat regularly, put them on your list, check check sales to make sure you can stock up on if you can. Sometimes the sale price is not necessarily the best price anyway, so just be aware of that. Become a smart shopper as you're going through your store, as you're looking at those sales, as you're looking at your specials. Check to see what the actual price is and if it really is a good deal for you. And that can take some time to really figure that out. An easy way to look at whether something is a good deal is to look at our unit pricing. Do you know where your unit price is in your grocery store? Do you know how to find out the unit price of a certain food? It is generally how I shop for my food. I do not always look at the total price. I look at what that unit price is for the food, because there are different sizes of foods. There are different volumes. Not everything is exactly the same as far as size and weight and things like that. So it helps to look at that unit price because it tells us how much it is per pound, per ounce, per count as well. So sometimes our sale price is still higher than maybe the store brand price. So always check those unit pricings. Hopefully your store carries those and has those listed. My grocery store that I shop at most often is really great about putting unit price with the sale price as well. So if they have a food on sale, they still put that sale unit price, so it's easier to tell if it actually is a better deal or not. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And it takes some time this is where you can spend some time in the store to really look at your labels, really look at those prices. And back to that buying in bulk. So it might be cheaper to buy in bulk, but if you're throwing half of it away, if it goes bad before you use it, is it really going to save you that money? So thinking about how much of the food that your family actually eats and how much it's worth that extra price. Okay, our specially marked packaging. So advertising and marketing could again be its own lesson, because it's very difficult to know what you're buying, if it's really a good deal or not. But generally, these deals might say there's more in it. There's 25% more cereal in the package. There might be a coupon attached to the package. You might get bundled products that are maybe 2 packs of things that are usually a better deal, especially if you can combine with a coupon. So couponing, we are not doing extreme couponing today. And some people love coupons and some people absolutely detest coupons. But the important thing to remember when we're looking at coupons is to look at whether it's something we're actually going to buy. If you're going to buy it because you have a coupon, are you really going to save money? Because you're still spending money. You're not getting it for free. You're still spending money on what it is. And you can also stack coupons. So that's also an option if it's a staple, if it's something you want, if it's something you regularly buy. And there might be a store coupon and maybe also a manufacturer coupon. So you can add those coupons together and save even more money on those. So it takes a little bit of time investment. There are some online and apps for coupons and things like that. So those are worth looking into. If it saves you even a few cents here and there, that all adds up as you go through your grocery shopping. And again, make sure your coupon is actually the cheapest deal. Sometimes the store brands are still cheaper even if you do have a coupon for it. And these are not just for groceries. So you can buy a lot of your toiletry needs, your personal care items and things like that. You can use coupons and deals for as well. All right, our last tip is our loss leader product. So some of these items that are priced so low, they actually are losing money for the grocery store. So they lure you in with some of these products to get you to come into their store to look at them. but then you're going to buy more stuff while you're in that store. So usually there's a limit on those. If your budget allows it, buy as much as you can of those. Some of them might be food quality issues. Always check the expiration dates on on any item, but especially these kinds of items, because sometimes they're close to their expiration dates. So they're trying to get them out of their store. So you want to make sure that it's something you can use before the expiration date hits, even if it is a really great deal. Okay, we've done our planning. Now we have to prep, right? So what does meal prep look like for you at your house right now? You can post that in the comments. What does it look like? Do you do any kind of meal prepping or any kind of planning once you have the food in your house? Some will cut up all the vegetables that they need for the whole week. They will portion out all of the different kinds of foods that they need for the different recipes. So it almost is like those meal planning kits where you have everything that you need and you're just ready to create your recipe when you're ready. But some people do it night by night. So I'm more of a night by night person. I will do my prepping usually when I'm cooking or as I'm doing that. But it does save time. But it depends on what you have as far as time that's available for this. So figure out what works best for you and your schedule and for your family. All right, so we have to always think about food safety, and food safety is vitally important, not just for our safety, but also for our food, to keep it as fresh as possible for the longest. So the way that we clean it, the way that we separate, the way that we cook, and the way that we cool our food, to refrigerate it, to have our leftovers, or to freeze it, these are really important to help save the quality of our food. And it also helps take some of that stress out if we have an organized kitchen and a clean kitchen. So a clean kitchen is really important to have when you're cooking or when you're doing your prep, not just for the safety piece, but also for your stress, because trying to cook in a dirty kitchen is quite stressful. Okay, so use your freezer if you have freezer space. Use that freezer. It does help to make sure you know what can be frozen. Not everything can be frozen, but you can use your freezer as a meal prep tool. You can also freeze your leftovers sometimes, but things like your really watery vegetables are not great to freeze. So our lettuces, our celeries are not really, they don't freeze very well. Things like mayonnaise will separate if it's frozen. Our fully cooked fried foods and noodles, if you're going to freeze them for later, only cook them about 60% of the way. When you freeze them when they're fully cooked, they don't keep that quality as long. So keep those kinds of things in mind too. There's lots of resources for finding whether it's a food that can be frozen or not as well. So now that we've thrown a lot of information at you today, we're right at our hour mark, but we're probably going to go over just a little bit. But the planning, shopping, cooking takes time, but it really is time well spent. If you think about and you really are honest with yourself about the time that you are spending now with planning and prepping and cooking and shopping versus looking at how you can spend that time differently, might really help you. Start small. If you have no experience and have never done any kind of food budget or food plan, start with just looking at breakfasts, or start with just looking at your lunches, or start with one meal a week even to plan for, and work your way up. Because if we start with trying to plan an entire month's worth of meals, it's not going to happen. But if you start with one meal or one type of meal a week, or even a week, you can start small, make that change, see how that helps you with your time and your money, and then go from there. So take inventory of what you have, make sure your kitchen is stocked with some of those essentials and those staples. Look at your schedule. Have those days where you don't have necessarily a plan. So you do not have to have a meal plan for every single day of the month. Have some leeway, because life happens. Sometimes a friend calls and wants to go out to dinner, and you don't want to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't because I'm planning to have this tonight for dinner. So give yourself some leeway, give yourself some flexibility with that schedule, and involve your family in that process. Even children as young as 2 can help think about and give you ideas on how they can, what kind of foods that they like and what kind of meals to make. So this is a list of different resources, and this is not an exhaustive list. There's a ton of resources out there for you. But the Eat, Gather, Go website is the Purdue Extension's nutrition education program. There's a lot of information. A lot of the information that I shared with you today is from that site. They have resources from everything from budgeting to why it's important and how to eat together as a family. They have recipes, all kinds of great information on there. Cooking Matters is an initiative from Share Our Strengths No Kid Hungry campaign. And I am actually working with the YMCA here locally to put together this curriculum in the future. And we're making short videos with tips from the Cooking Matters curriculum. So check out the YMCA and our Purdue Extension page for some of those quick videos and quick tips. And look out for, if you're interested in a more in-depth look at this, look whenever we are able to provide our in-person classes again, we're going to be doing these Cooking Matter classes. So check out for that information coming up in the future. The USDA has great resources on food budgeting and healthy eating and recipes for you and your families. There's lots of information out there. There's budgeting worksheets, there's recipe meal planning, all kinds of resources out there. If you're interested in a specific resource, please feel free to email me. I have put my email address in the description. And I'm going to check now to see all of the great comments you guys have, but please continue to put your comments in our box. Let us know that you were watching. Let me know what kind of information you still need. You can reach out to me via email or even through the comments here. But let us know what you like and what has worked for you. If you have a resource that has worked really well for you, please feel free to share that with us so that others can benefit from that as well. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed this 3-part webinar series on when your income drops. If you haven't, if this is your first one that you've attended, please feel free to go back and check out our other 2 webinar sessions. If you have ideas of other future webinars, please feel free to share those with me. I would love to know what you guys are interested in and what can help you with your families. Good luck to you. I hope you all have a wonderful day.